Welcome to your healthy home. My name is Domenic Cortese. Is your home healthy? Well, that's what this show is all about. Join us for the next half hour as we explore how you can live safely in your home environment. Together, we're about to learn the right way of working with old and new building materials and identify risks in your home that you may not know exist, and take you through a step-by-step process to eliminate those risks. In this episode, we'll learn about the hazards of lead paint and the history behind its use. We'll show you how to identify whether you have lead paint in your home, how to safely remove it, and explore the EPA regulations on lead paint stabilization. And then show you a group of high schoolers that came to town to repaint homes here in Buffalo in a lead-safe way. We hope as well to learn with you about the correct way of improving your home with the proper use of building materials and the know-how to get it done right. That's all today on Your Healthy Home. Lead is a naturally occurring element found in nature in many forms of ores. It is a heavy, soft, malleable, bluish metal. The history of its use traces back many centuries. The oldest known lead object was a statue excavated in Turkey and dated somewhere around 6500 BC. During the Roman Empire, lead was used extensively in many aspects of life, to line vessels that stored water and wine, in utensils, and in combined form as a glaze on pottery. In more recent years, lead was widely used to extend the protective properties of paints, helped automobiles attain better fuel efficiency, protected workers from harmful radiation, and provided a suitably dense material for ammunition and fishing weights. Now, even though it's no longer used in many of these applications, millions of homes across the country were painted with lead paint, and if your home predates 1978, well, there's a good chance you have some lead-based paint in your home. Lead-based paint chips, as well as soil and household dust contaminated with lead, are the primary sources of childhood lead poisoning. The United States government's Consumer Product Safety Commission banned lead paint in 1977. In an announcement dated September 2, 1977, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission had culminated a major regulatory proceeding by issuing a final ban on lead containing paint and on toys and furniture coated with such paint. This action was taken to reduce the risk of lead poisoning in children who may ingest paint chips or peelings. Beginning in 2010, the U.S. EPA now requires that all renovators who work in homes built before 1978 and disturb more than 6 square feet of lead be certified. The new regulation will affect over 100,000 renovators across the country. Renovators can find more about the program by going to epa.gov. So how do you know if you have lead paint in your home? Well, there are some home test kits available that you can buy at home centers. We found this one here that allows you to swab the surface of the painted area to see if indeed there is lead paint present. Now, while these swab kits may prove to be valuable for you to see if you indeed have lead paint in your home, they do come with a couple restrictions on their use. First and foremost, you have to use them within 2 minutes of breaking them open. And secondly, you're only going to be testing the surfaces that you swab. Be aware that if you have multiple layers of paint, that you may not know if there's lead paint lying beneath the surface. You actually may want to cut away several layers of paint, if there are many layers, to see if each of those layers contains lead paint. These will turn bright red in the presence of lead, and remember, you have 2 minutes to work with them. When we come back, we'll speak to Dr. Anthony Billatier, the Commissioner of Health for the County of Erie, and Tina Preston, the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Department of Health. Every home should have a carbon monoxide detector. Let me show you what to look for. Carbon monoxide is the byproduct of any unspent fuel that might result in your home. Carbon monoxide detector, plug-in style, could save your life. The proper connection of these vent lines is very essential to avoid any problems with carbon monoxide. Breaks or gaps in these lines could lead to a buildup of carbon monoxide. The only way you'll know you have it, because it's odorless and colorless, is with a carbon monoxide detector. Here's some things you may not have known. Lead exposure can harm young children and babies even before they're born. Even children who seem healthy can have high levels of lead in their bodies. You can get lead in your body by breathing or swallowing lead dust, or by eating soil or paint chips containing lead. Removing lead-based paint improperly can increase the dangers to your family. You have many options for reducing lead hazard. In most cases, lead-based paint that is in good condition is not a hazard.
Lead actually can affect a lot of different organs. For example, it can affect the kidneys, so the kidneys may not work as well. It can affect the blood, so they may actually become anemic or have a low blood count. But the one that we worry about the most in children is their nervous system, their brains. They're still developing. And it's very clear that lead damages the brain. Usually there are no symptoms. So this is a silent problem. In fact, it's a New York State law that children are screened by their doctors. At ages 1 and 2, they actually have to have a blood test to see what their level is. And then after that, they still have to at least be questioned as to could they be at risk. And then if they could be at risk, they should be tested even beyond age 2. Now, that's not to say that you can't have symptoms from lead if it goes up high enough. So in other words, if you slowly ingest lead over a long time period, you tend not to have symptoms. But if all of a sudden you ingest a lot of it, you'll probably have symptoms at a lower level. And those symptoms could be anywhere from just somnolence or lethargy all the way up to death. It actually can kill people. If kids are exposed to lead for long enough and at high enough level, eventually they have less brain function, if you will, and so they may exhibit all sorts of symptoms. They may have behavioral disorders, they may have learning disorders. As the blood level goes up, their IQ goes down, and this is a permanent effect. And so this is what's very sad, that a lot of children are being poisoned, and it will affect them the rest of their lives. It'll reduce their ability to go to college, to get jobs, to be successful in life. The lead primarily comes from the paint that was laid down in the house pre-1978. And it's safe as long as it sticks to the wall or the woodwork, but the problem is that over time the paint deteriorates. Friction causes the paint to become aerosolized or dust. Like, for example, in windows that go up and down, it rubs, and then the paint becomes dust. And then kids will either breathe it in, or they do a lot of hand-to-mouth activity. So they touch it, and then they touch their mouth, and they ingest it that way.
Kids can get poisoned in a variety of sources. Jewelry, toys that they perhaps might be playing with, using pottery, okay, that has a glaze on it that contains lead paint, leaded glasses that one might drink special at holidays, and as strange as it may sound, actually some candy and gums that are actually imported in from Mexico and other countries, Central American countries, actually have lead in them.
Some of the things that we teach parents to do are make sure that they feed their children well, because those who are less well nourished actually are more at risk from that lead. We tell them to make sure that their children eat lots of calcium and iron, which will reduce their susceptibility to ongoing lead exposure. Get out of the environment, and so if we find a child in the house with a high lead level, we don't want them living there until it's fixed, because they'll just continue to get exposed. And then at the very extreme, if their lead level is very high, or if they have significant symptoms, they'll undergo what's called chelation, and that's either by mouth or more commonly through an IV. They'll get a medicine that will actually pull the lead out of their bones and out of their body. That's pretty drastic, obviously. It's a 5-day course usually in a hospital, and so we try to do everything we can short of that, but unfortunately more and more kids are needing that. Our numbers are up significantly this year, and that's concerning.
If the property was built prior to 1978, the homeowner should assume that they have lead paint somewhere in that property. What they can do every day is just clean that home extremely well, feed their kids a very healthy diet, good hand washing, shoes off at the door. A lot of these things sound like common sense, but they go a very long way in preventing a child from being poisoned.
If you just dust, you may just aerosolize that dust as you as you move the duster around. But if you wet the duster, the lead dust will stick to the mop and then it won't become aerosolized and people won't breathe it in. And so things like that are probably good practices, whether you have lead or not, or whether you have children in the home or not. Every year, Erie County has 3 or 4 of the highest zip codes in the state. The reality of it is Erie County every year will continue to have 3 or 4 high zip codes no matter what we do. And I must say we are making great progress. And we're catching lots of kids and we're treating them. But the bottom line is it's a function of how old your housing stock is. If you have lots of houses built before 1978, you're going to have high lead in your community. We can't go out and knock all the old houses down and build new houses without lead. That's just the reality of it.
When we come back, I'll introduce you to a group of volunteers who taught us how to work with lead-based paint, and we'll meet a group of high schoolers who came to town to repaint homes here in Buffalo in a lead-safe way. Here's what you should do to have a more efficient, energy-saving home. Change your furnace filter monthly. A clogged filter can cause the unit to overheat and can lead to premature damage to the air conditioning system. Lights with motion detectors are convenient and an efficient source for outdoor security lighting. Well-positioned motion detectors make it virtually impossible for anyone to sneak up on your home.